T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Trap Talk Reptile Network, coolest reptile network in the world, episode 481, all in the tree Tuesdays. Tonight we got JRW Chondros in the building, and I am your boy MJ. What is good? Hope everyone's had a good start of their week. But if this your first time hanging out, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, select all. You'll be reminded of every podcast that is dropped here under the network. Shout out to all the hosts that are running the other segments going on in the week. But Trap Talk is 6 days a week now, so it's just nonstop reptile content all over the audio platforms as well, such as Spotify, Apple. So wherever you listen to Trap Talk Reptile Network, thank you so much. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you're liking best out of each segment and episodes. Give me some of that feedback. And of course, if you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to get more out of what you see out of each episode, if you want to get more behind the scenes, you want to get invites to special invites to special events. There we go. I said it. Then look no further than joining the Trap Talk Patreon family. Very first link in the description below. Right there. Very first top. Click that. Join the Trap Talk Patreon family. Join the Discord. Over 200 trappers in the Discord. And there's an amazing Instagram group chat that is cracking. So first and foremost, I want to say to all my Patreon members, thank you for all the love and support. Going on 4 years now. You guys are just, man, I don't know what to say. We're growing. Thank you. You guys are my heart. Shout out to all my Patreon members, my trappers. You guys, that's all I got to say. We're going to the top. Hey, listen, tonight, before we get to tonight's episode and tonight's sponsor, shout out to US Art Florida. Second link in description below will help you read up all about US Art. If you're not a US Art member, join today. Okay, as low as $5. That's it. All right. If you're selling reptiles in the game, you can definitely afford a $5 membership. Help us get these numbers up. All right. You never know when things are going to hit your backyard. It's that important. So thank you so much to anyone out there who supports US Art and US Art Florida. Appreciate the entire US Art team. Phil Goss, you guys are awesome. Appreciate everything you do. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Monarch Clothing Company. Go to monarchclothingcompany.com. Check out all the gear they have. Very casual, but then yet stuff to train in as well. It's amazing. I love wearing my Monarch Clothing shirts and shorts on a daily. Please type in Trap Fam to get 15% off your entire order. And again, monarchclothingcompany.com. Link in the description below. Tonight's episode is also brought to you by Juggernaut Reptile. Shout to Elijah Armis and his wife Tiffany, man. Diverse in the reptile game. OGs, if you want to ask me. They definitely put me on at the start in me keeping reptiles. And again, Elijah Armis and Tiffany Armis of Juggernaut Reptiles. Check them out on Facebook. All right. Also check them out on IG. You can find the link to those in the description below. All right. Check them out on MORPH Market. Go to their website. These guys are hitting it in the short tail game, the blood game. So many different diverse in the reptiles game. So thank you so much, Juggernaut Reptiles. You guys are awesome. Also, tonight's episode is brought to you by SUNDOWN Reptiles. My boy Brian Susan, #1 tree monitor breeder in the game, also works with high designer geckos, Arbronia. All right, you can go to sundownreptiles.com, see what he has available. Shout out to Brian Susan, and also follow him on Instagram, Sundown Reptiles. Thank you so much. Appreciate the love and support, my man. And that last but not least, shout out to my dog, Gary Shavino, my boy GS Reptiles. Type in GS Reptiles on YouTube, subscribe. And please follow this man's content because it's second to none. It's hilarious and it's fun to learn from a man, Gary Shavino. Please follow him on Instagram as well. And Gary, we need that vlog. Wondering when that next vlog is. All right. My man who does not need a sound check because he's that smooth. He's the only guy who could do it. It's Phil Stevens, the mayor of Chondros, who came in, no sound check at all. I mean,
were you getting worried? Seriously,
no,
were you getting worried I wasn't going to show?
No. I mean, I know how you are. You're the mayor. You come in a in great form. Thank you.
Let me give you my best Marshall impersonation here. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Oh, hey guys, what's up?
What did I miss?
Oh man, dude, what's going on, Bill? How you living, buddy?
Everything's good. Everything's good, man.
Yeah,
Missed you the Friday party.
yeah. How'd that go? I want to ask you, how did the I know it was more intimate. You had a hand select of people who came over, but how was that, man? I saw Patrick Holmes with a huge plate of steak. Did Brian Phillips share that, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay, fuck.
Yep. Brian got half, and everybody else got the other half.
Man, good.
It was great. Yeah, it was really good. I think I told you on the phone a few days ago. It was kind of like the first one or two. Here, small crowd. It was what I expected with the NARBC venue being moved. Just a lot of people. Purposefully, I wanted to keep it small this time. I knew a lot of people were not going to want to come out because they were still getting settled into the new venue, the new hotels. Total foreign territory to most people that were coming in out of town. So most of the people were locals. So, which was good. Mark and Patrick and Brian and Alex and Heartland was here. Roe was here.
Nice.
Kyle James came and brought some food with Patrick. So
it could have just been you and Patrick and Alex, and I would have been stoked to go. It's the whole vibe of being at your house, I think, Bill. There's something about it, you know what I mean? Not only the conjure room, obviously, walking into your room, but just your backyard. Like, I love pulling into your house, and I know it's vacation time for some reason.
Yeah, and the weather, it was San Diego weather Friday. I mean, absolutely perfect.
Speaking of SoCal weather, all right, shout out to also tonight's sponsor. Why don't you drop it for us tonight, Bill? We're getting very close here. Well, we're a month away from the big reptile talks in Anaheim, California, featuring Bill Stiegel. But why don't you drop some stuff for us here, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super looking forward to this. I've already started working on my presentation. I'm going to be presenting Saturday, but this is what it says, the Reptile Talks, and it's going to be really a diverse collection of speakers. They're going to be talking Saturday and Sunday in Anaheim. I'm going to get in there Friday night, and there's going to be, I think, some kind of benefit Saturday night for USARK, maybe an auction of some sort, I think.
Cool.
Probably a mixer on Friday night, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm giving an introductory lecture on green tree pythons. I'm anticipating that most of the audience will have little experience or little knowledge of green trees. So I'm going to keep it pretty simple, pretty basic, and tell them to listen to this podcast.
On that note, on simple and basic, Marshall Mendez, here he is. Fucking is he connected to Wi-Fi? I think he is. You're connected to Wi-Fi, aren't you? Dude,
I'm not.
Are you sure? Because you're kind of buried.
No, I got a new router, so I think it fixed everything.
So he is connected to Wi-Fi.
Twice blurry,
dude.
I'm not. I'm just kidding.
You're not kidding.
Why do you guys look so blurry?
It's you, dude.
Hello, Marshall.
Hello, Marshall. How you living, buddy?
Living large.
Yeah,
pumped. Last day of work today. About to go on vacation for a couple days, so pretty pumped.
Nice.
You got the day tomorrow to kind of get everything ready, get the rodents ready, get the snakes ready. Do 4 days worth of husbandry in a day, and then taking off on Thursday for a couple days. So pumped.
You know where he's going, Bill?
I do not.
Give you one guess, buddy.
He's going to San Diego.
No, I mean, I'd be so.
Well, I am, but not this week.
Now. Yeah, he talked about it a long time ago. It's what he lives for. It's his life, bro. Come on.
Oh, he's going to fish.
Yes, there it is in Vegas.
That's right.
This is different.
Vegas.
And
at the Sphere.
What anniversary is this? Remind me. Fucking 38.
It's my wife and I's 20th anniversary.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
Very nice.
Epic. Well, have fun over there, Marshall. And of course, why don't we get an update real quick? What's going on with your the albino calico clutch that you have? Are they alive still?
Albino, yeah, it's still alive. Haven't been able to get it to eat again. Try not to bother it too much. The other 3 The two siblings to the albino and the one survivor from the calico clutch are all on meal number 3 or 4 now. So they're doing great. And the albino, man, I can get him every time to strike and to grab, but it's like I remember the first time he ate, it took like 6 or 7 times, and he finally just, started gnawing on it, and just I'm pretty sure he didn't even constrict it. He just ate the thing while it was still kicking, going down his throat. But he's grabbed it a couple of times, but haven't really gotten, haven't been able to get him to finish take it all the way. So, like I said, I'm trying to leave him alone. Can't tell if he's going to shed or not, and that's why he's not eating. But leave him alone for the next couple of days, and if he hadn't shed by the time I get back in town, I may consider doing a pink head or something. I don't know. So,
well, it's the farthest you've ever gone with albino, though, right?
No, I had one live for like 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
right.
that did pretty well until it didn't. But so anyway, yeah, that's the update.
All right, well, keep us posted. We're rooting for you.
Thank you.
That. We need that albino, buddy. But guys, Joey Westgate, coming from a referral from Gary Shavino. We don't get a lot of these Gary Shavino referrals. Actually, Gary told me if I don't have him on the show here shortly, we're gonna have problems. So yeah,
I call it more than a referral. It was like Gary laying down the law.
But listen, I'm excited because there's a lot of connection, I guess, in a sense. I do have one of his neonates that he produced. Okay. And
that's right.
Lineage wise, this connects to the sickness. I guess this would be one of the sickness's nephews in a sense. So dude, obviously this guy has stuff connected to you, Bill. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. And I just want to go ahead and drop him in if you guys are ready to rock and roll, because I'm ready to rock.
Let's talk to Joe.
Let's go.
All right, guys, it's that time. And shout out to everyone in the chats, by the way. You guys are beautiful. Drop a super chat if you have a question or a certain topic. Don't be shy, and we'll say what up. The mayor's always in the chat saying hi to you guys. So, but guys, let's do what we got to do to get our mind rights and do what we got to do to stay hydrated for this episode of All in the Tree Tuesdays. JRW Chondros, 481 episodes coming at you right now. Let's go. Tree.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it.
We're live, episode 481. Joe Westgate, JRW Chondros. What is up, Joe?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey Joe.
Hey Joe. How's it going?
Bill, MJ.
My man. Hey, have you guys met at all? Bill, Marshall, Joe? I'm curious. I gotta ask.
I've talked to Bill a couple times, a bunch of times. Marshall, just following him on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah, Marshall don't talk to nobody. But anyways,
he doesn't sell any snakes either.
Hey, you don't sell snakes,
man.
I'm just kidding.
Piling on early, are we, Marshall? Piling on early.
Starting early.
Vacation
Marshall,
man.
I was getting shit from MJ.
Hey, but I'm curious, because right off the bat, really impressive with the clutch that I was able to acquire one of the neonates from that Gary Shavino helped delegate sell for you. But that I believe the dam was a Bill Stiegel production. Is that correct me if I'm wrong?
Yes.
Okay, can we kind of tap into that? Is this one of your foundation snakes here? One of the snakes that started you off here with Chondros?
It was one of the ones at the end that I got. They always tell you to buy your neos and start them out slow and raise them up. And after raising 7 or 8 neos, they all started to end up as males. And you keep on going. And after the 7th male, you kind of get a little bit of down and out. So I ended up getting a couple more snakes, and thank God at the end I started hitting some females. And Bill's, I think it was 1801, ended up being a female.
Hey Joe, remind me, did you get that? Did you get it as a neo? I did. Actually, it was right when the color changing was going. So I think I would say it was maybe about a year old. Because right when I got it, it started to do the color change. So it wasn't 6 months or anything. Yeah. So you got it,
and it's
unsexed, right? You got it unsexed.
Yes. Yeah. You told me the whole time that it was a female.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't believe you until the end.
When you see them on eggs, that's when you know.
Yeah, and then finally at the end, it was it ended up being a female, and thank God, because it gave me my first clutch.
Nice.
And which pairing is it from?
It was the 1801 to Jaeger and
Jaeger biscuit.
Yeah, no, not that one. Hold on a minute.
That would have been,
When was the Sickness's first clutch?
It was the second, I think the second pairing, Bill, to that one. So it wasn't the first pairing where the Sickness came out. It was the second.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So that, okay. Yes. And I actually have a female a sibling to your female that laid eggs, and her clutch is due to hatch in a week.
Nice.
I call her Epidemic.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes. Yeah.
Sick ass snake.
Yeah. Yes, that was the animal that you have is a repeat pairing that produced the Sickness just 2 years later.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So basically a sib, just a 2 years, 2 years younger.
Later. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I paired it with a TK male that I had gotten prior to that. And, they both were probably my darkest neos.
Yeah.
And that was always the plan, to pair those two up. And then, like I said, I started trying to breed, and, I cycled, I did what I needed to do. And just year after year, it didn't seem to click. And then finally, with a couple of years of cycling them and, doing temperature and all that, they all of a sudden just started, I finally started getting locks, and finally last year got an ovulation and just went from there,
What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay.
So it's, they say, I know a lot of people have clutches throughout the year, but here it definitely seems like, you start cooling them down October, November, and then, January, February, you're lucky if you get an ovulation, but they tend to, I feel like, go later here. Not as later. I see a lot of Texas guys like kind of go into the summer almost, but
yeah. I mean, it's crazy you say that, because I think, Southern California, I go later than everyone else too. But I mean, technically after a while of doing this, like Bill, you're locked in and you go at the same time every year now, right? Like there's really no you having late pairings or anything, because you shut it down at a certain point, and that's how you have it purposely, right?
Yeah, but I've still got 2 females that I'm pairing now, which is really, really late for me. But I'm pairing them because they've got decent sized follicles, and the male's still interested. These are females though that have been pairing since November. So, since November, and I will shut them down. I'll give them a pretty hard shutdown, within the next 30 days, unless they start showing me something. They go off food or something like that. But I'll just lick my wounds and put them back into the project next, this fall.
And I think
lick your wounds with your 8 other clutches for the year.
And there's 50 other snakes just in the side there.
Oh, listen, you gotta let them do what they're gonna do.
Poor guy.
The mayor can only control so much.
Yeah.
Do what they do.
Well, that's like my first year. Like my first year, I had 3 pairings. They all locked, and I'm like, okay, this is it. It's going. And all winter long, I paired them up, and then nothing comes.
Yeah.
Next spring, summer, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we all talk about how locks don't mean shit. You got
it doesn't.
You got a really good male who just likes to get down and really just go ahead and lock anything. I mean, shit. There's even been stories of males locking themselves. So it's kind of like, you got to take that with a grain of salt. It's a good sign, obviously, if you got a male that does that, but there is a time and place, right, Bill? Like, and that's, I know one thing I wanted to talk to you about, just hearing what you said, Bill, about, or, Joe, you said that Bill sold you a snake very confidently that it was a female. And I know, Bill, you don't ever guarantee a sex of a neonate, you know what I mean? But I do feel like you do look at certain things that give you a good feeling about that snake going female. And I'm curious what maybe those signs could be, Bill, that you've noticed over the years.
For me, it's 100%. An animal that size is probing it. I won't go based on perch or, based on size or based on really anything other than probing it, when it's young like that. And even that, if it's a male, then I can tell you pretty confident. I'm 90% sure this is a male. But I don't know. I just because Joe, you said you bought that animal was about a year old, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the earliest that I will even begin to try to determine what the sex is.
Yeah, I think you were definitely uncertain, but you definitely were pretty confident that it was a female. Yeah. You sold it to me as is, but like I said, I kind of said it wasn't a female, and it ended up being a female. So
I'll usually probe them when they're a year old, 18 months old. I'll usually probe them on a couple different occasions. And a male at that age will swallow the probe, so to speak. He'll take a small, thin probe really deep, and a female won't. And then, you get, as Marshall will tell you, you get the tweeners, which are like 7 scales, they probe 7, 8 scales, you're like, well, what the hell is this?
Yeah. And I had a lot of that. The ones that I was very undetermined on, I knew my males, I knew some of my females. And then I would probe them, and same thing. There'd be the lines would be right in the middle, right there.
Yeah.
And it would kind of confuse me even more doing the probes on the snakes that I didn't know, what they were yet.
What about you, Marshall? Have you kind of found that to be true as well? Probing, 1-year-old, 18-month-old animals?
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever sold one that was sexed incorrectly. I mean, if I have, the person didn't tell me. But since I haven't sold any chondros in a while, I've just been 100% sexing them by sheds, which I can start doing at around, usually 18 to 24 months. If I know I'm not going to sell them,
Again, that's like, when you see a male shed and it's got male sperm plugs, that's a male, like,
you can't
9% of the time, right?
Yeah. And if you get a good female shed that sheds the entire thing, I mean, you can tell, it's a pretty distinctive as well. Also, not as much as the, males, obviously, but you can tell from a female shed too, if you know what you're looking at.
I've had some 2-year-old females that haven't shown me, really sheds that I would say, hey, this is female. I mean, I think between the combination of sheds and probing, that most of the time you can get a pretty good idea. And when I say a pretty good idea, you're talking about the 80 to 90% range. But shit.
Yeah, I know what you can't do is try to guess, because I've got like 1 or 2 here that I thought for sure 100% were female. They just have that kind of, more rounded body shape. They're bigger than the sibs, more weight, and the males.
10 years ago, that was like the big thing. Like there were people people 10 years ago they'd bet their mother's life that they could tell you the sex of a chondro based on body shape and the way they.
Yeah, that's not a great way.
I never bought into it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously clear there's big males out there, you know what I mean? So you can't really just determine all that. That's for sure.
There's probably still people that they'll tell you that they can do it, but man, I just don't. I'm not one, you know. And why do that when you can just look at the shed and, you know, get somebody to help you and do a gentle probe, you know?
Right. Now, I mean, Joe, you're sitting on your biggest year yet, right? So you have the most neonates you ever had in a rack right now.
I did.
This has been a long time coming from what I know, right?
It definitely has. You know,
can you tell us how long it's been and whatnot?
So I started, you know, I was always into snakes. My mother worked at a pet shop when I was about 6 or 7, and I would go in there, you know, on a weekend, and, you know, she would let me know, oh, you know, we're missing this type of snake that got out. And, you know, back then all they had was glass cages with the screen tops, you know. Right. And so we'd go in there early in the morning, and she'd let me know, you know, well, we got a snake that got out, and I would, you know, hunt around, and of course I would find that snake on top of the rat or mouse cage, you know, early in the morning, and it, you know, it just, the passion that I had for these animals, I just loved them. And, you know, I went through a lot of different animals, you know, lizards and all that, and I think from 1999 to 2002, I started going to the expos, you know, buying green tree pythons, you know, buying kind of a mismatch of stuff like everybody does. And you know, trying to get those imports going, it was kind of a struggle. You know, I got a couple of them going and learned a lot back then with how to feed them with lizards and stuff and trying to keep them going. But it just wasn't working out for me. So I think in like 2003, 2004, I got rid of my collection. And then about 10 years ago, I started to do it again. And like I said, I had a nice Biak I thought was a female. So I went out, bought a nice designer from Buddy Buscemi, and, you know, was gonna pair it up. And of course, 4 years later, that female shed plugs. And I was like, oh, so that's you know, that's kind of putting me back 4 or 5 years right now.
Yeah.
So then I just, you know, started slowly buying snakes. And like I said, you know, the more neos I bought, the more males I ended up having. And finally at the end, you know, I hit some females and some really good females with some good blood. And then probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I started pairing up. And the snakes were maybe a little bit young, maybe 4 or 5. And like I said, the first year I didn't get anything. Second year, I finally hit it last year with 2 clutches. One clutch was not that great. I kind of cooked it at the end, and I think that was my own fault with the incubation. So this year I went a lot lower with incubation temps, and it's definitely worked out for me.
What temp?
So the Cyclops clutch, it never went past 87.3, and I probably dropped it down to 86.5 at at
and that's egg box temperature or incubator chamber
temperature? Oh no, that's in the egg box. Yes.
In the egg box. Okay.
You know, kind of varied. So the second clutch, which is a repeat pairing of the bill, I incubated that at 86.5, probably 86.7 the most. And I was actually a little bit worried. I'm like, well, it's kind of cool and cold for that. You know, it's more of a test. We'll see. And I'll tell you what, that whole clutch hatched perfect, robust, like.
And you lowered the temps on that clutch too towards the end?
What's that?
Did you lower the temps on that clutch as well towards the end?
Yes, I did. And I have a hot box, the small incubator, so it's kind of, I got both shelves, you know, doing pretty good at almost the same temp. They're a little bit off, but you know, when you're trying to cool one clutch and keep the other clutch going, you're kind of in a gray area if you don't have a big incubator, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's playing with fire sometimes, huh, guys? Like having multiple clutches in one incubator, like, you know, especially if it's not something where there's not much control of the temps, you know.
Yeah, that's, you know, I've got 2 incubators, and luckily, you know, I just moved one clutch that's due to hatch in 7 days into a different incubator, so I could lower that temp a little bit.
That's what I'm thinking in the future. Is I actually like the small hot box incubator. I'm thinking of just getting another one. That way I can transport them over. Yeah, and just have 2 of them going.
And it's always good to have a backup. I have backup on my backup. I have backup heat on my incubator and backup heat on my backup incubator. And
I mean, God forsake, a fan or the heating element goes in that, and you got 2 clutches. You're shit out of luck right there. That's for sure.
Yep. All it takes.
Bill, are you measuring your incubator in the main chamber or the in the egg box?
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm in the incubator, and outside too. So I honestly, with my incubator, I had a mercury thermometer for a while that kind of gave me, a good. But the problem is that the thing's so long, just trying to kind of stick it in there. It's kind of hard to get your temperature. I bought a lot of the Govee ones, and then I just bought the new green ones, and those worked really well. I was very impressed. I think they're sensor push, they're called. And those were very accurate. Of course, at the end, they still started to glitch out a little bit, but they ended up clicking back on.
My sensor pushes couldn't handle humidity as good as my Govees for some reason. And I
went
through a lot of sensor pushes.
I've gone through both of them. And I thought those sensor pushes, like I bought even the nice, they have the waterproof ones. And even that one at the end kind of got screwed up a little bit. But I realized that my incubator temps from last year was off almost a full degree, which is big, And
how do you really know? I measure my temperatures multiple different ways, but the bottom line is, how do you really know what the true temperature is?
Where's the thermostat probe? Is it in your main chamber or your egg box? In the box. Okay. Both of you guys do that.
Is that right? No, mine's not in the box. Mine's in the main chamber.
No, my probe's hanging in the chamber.
Yeah.
So nothing. There's no probes in any egg boxes.
No.
Right. That's smart.
And Bill, what are you? What is your incubator set to?
My herbs.
Bill, he's talking to Bill. Joe, sorry.
Oh. So my herb stats set it at 88 degrees, but my Govee bench is 87.5.
And you leave it like that even as the eggs are getting closer to hatch. And
no, I'll drop it half a degree like the last 10 days. But if you open that and then you temp gun those eggs, they're going to be a lot hotter than 87 degrees. I've temped them at 88 and a half, 89 degrees towards the end.
Joe, what is your incubator main chamber set to?
I think it was at 87.5 this year.
Okay.
87.7.
So you're a little bit higher.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the egg box would probably be 86.5 to 86.7 maybe in there.
And what day are you dropping temps? What day do you like to drop temps?
I like to, and this is kind of, I'm still a newbie, but what has worked for me is I like the first week or two, maybe the first 14 days, I like to kind of start at 86.5 and kind of raise it up slowly, maybe a degree or two a day, or even every 3 days. And then I like to max out, those 3 weeks in the middle, like for the Cyclops clutch, it was 87.3. Bill's clutch, it was, like I said, it was a lot colder. It was probably 86.5. Mm-hmm. And then once it gets to the end, I like to drop it down to 86.5. And then even with the last clutch, I went 86.1 and left it like that. And they hatched on day 54.
And holes in the box? You put holes in the
holes in the box. I do have the big sim container egg boxes, so they breathe a little bit,
Yeah.
It's kind of better than those small boxes that everybody was using.
Yeah. And they're suspended over water or what?
Yep. I was thinking of doing the solution this year, but I just stuck with the regular water. I did, the first year I think I used bottled water, so I did change it up to distilled water this year. I know it's something small, but you never know. When you're steaming those eggs, you gotta, who knows what's in that water, really.
I mean, he has a good point, guys, only because I mean, depending where you live, right? And if you're using your tap water, there's like certain fucking like, certain stuff going on in that water. And I've only noticed this because I use buckets of water to humidify my walk-in incubator. And after a while, when that water dries, you could see all this white shit at the bottom of the fucking at the bottom of the bucket. You know what I mean?
The residue.
I think it's all the shit that they put. Like I know there's certain stuff that they treat our tap
Just
water with here.
depends if you have hard water or not. If you have hard water, it's got
some minerals in the water. Yeah,
right.
Well, they even put chlorine in the water here. I've seen them. That they do it to clean everything out.
Yeah. I don't think we have chlorine, but I mean, I wonder if that's probably something to consider too, using like, filtered water for your egg box.
So I changed that up. My first year, I got to my eggs a little bit late. So they were kind of, all together, and it was kind of a hectic year last year. So when I did get to the eggs, they were all bunched up. I couldn't really separate them.
Was she over them? I'm sorry, Joe. Was she like coiled over them or no?
Oh yeah, she was coiled. They were both coiled good. Like I said, the eggs were glued together, and trying to get them to separate and stuff was kind of hectic last year. Yeah. So I ended up just putting the whole clutch in there. And then of course, that one egg in the middle of it starts to go bad. And yeah, and a lot of people will be like, oh, that one bad egg won't kill the other ones, but it didn't seem like that for me.
So they all started rotting after that.
Yeah, as soon as that bad egg touched any other egg, they rotted out.
What do you guys have to say to that though? Because I've also seen plenty of clutches where a fucking disgusting egg is right there, and all these other things are pipping out.
The other ones touching it look perfect. Yeah.
So maybe that whole clutch was fucked to begin with. You guys think, or what do you guys have to think? Like, what would you wrap your head around that? Something like that.
I'm kind of like Joe. I've had it happen both ways. In fact, this year I had a clutch where I could separate, maybe half of the egg mass. The other half just got too tough, and it's still, it's due to hatch in 7 or 8 days, and it's still sitting there in block. So I think it's one of the reasons that we do try to separate them. But who knows if it was the one egg that spread or if the other eggs were doomed to go bad. Anyway,
I think it was just one of those bad clutches, anyways. Because that clutch, I only got two survivors.
Okay. Yeah.
Out of how many eggs, Joe?
I think there was about 11 or 12, and I, being a newbie, I was so worried. I just put the eggs in the incubator and I didn't candle them. So this year was a lot different. I put the camera in the egg box. I got, as soon as she laid them, I was on top of it. I got to separate them. I candled them, and they even candling them this year, they looked a lot better than when I candled them last year. We were probably 3 weeks into it, and I could kind of see some of the eggs were just clear, and they weren't going anywhere, no vein development or nothing. This year, I don't know. I just seemed to have better luck with the vein development. I got them separated good. Put them upright the way they were supposed to be, which I didn't do last year. And I just, kept a good eye on my incubator temps this year.
Yeah. I mean, any of you guys have a time during the incubation process where you like to check vein development at all? Or do you guys preferably just say, fuck it, I leave that shit alone, just see what happens?
I'll throw them all in at first, and then I'll check them about a weekend. And then the ones, weekend. The ones that are slugs, they're a different color. They glow like yellow instead of more orange, I would say. And I just chunk them, even if they still look good. I chunk them at that point.
And I'll candle mine early, right as I'm putting them up, and then I don't mess with them after that. I will make them a notation if one's really poorly veined. I might make an X instead of a straight line, but I don't mess with them after that. I mean, I don't like to mess with something unless it's going to change the outcome. And candling it, a couple weeks or a month down the road, it's not going to change the outcome. So I just don't do it.
What about you, Joe?
This year, when I did open up my egg box, to wipe it down, I would take one egg. I think 3 weeks in, and I would just candle that one egg just to see what was going on. And it looked good, so I put that one egg back, and that's pretty much what I do with the other clutch. I just, I waited 3 weeks, candled one egg, it looked good, and then I put it back and left them alone.
Now, you talked about a lot of the struggles you dealt with when you first paired up your females, that, you were getting locks with just no action, right? I mean, it's for nothing, nothing was happening, right? So
yeah.
Were you still feeding your females regularly then? Or like, how were you either food cycling or temp cycling? Like, or were you doing
so the first year I temp cycled, but I didn't food cycle. Then the second year I temp cycled, I did a little bit of food cycling, and I had 2 females go for me. The third year I did a good food cycle, probably 2.5 months off of food. And I did that July and August. And then I started giving them food back in September. And I had I had 3 females this year ovulate, and had 2 clutches right now. And I have a female that I'm probably about 2 weeks out of the pre-lay shed right now.
It's so funny. I always ask whenever anybody talks about food cycling, I always like to ask, like, well, how do you do it? When do you do it? Yeah. And it seems like every answer is different, and sometimes significantly different.
You watch it.
But every person that does it seems to give it credence, and I'm one of them. I think I'm a big believer now. Didn't used to do it, but I do it now. But I do it like way different than you. I do it way later than you. I don't do it in the summer. I do it, I do it a couple of months before I start pairing.
Yeah.
But
then the other kid that was on, he was saying that he doesn't feed his females, all through the cycling, which is even more baffling.
Yeah, he'll go months, right? 4 months without feeding his females, something like that.
Yeah, and I really think, I got my females to go is like I'll give them two meals, in the middle of breeding, and that really seems to, when I do that 2 meal thing, it seems to kick them in, and 3-4 weeks later, I seem to get an ovulation out of it.
What do you mean 2 meals?
Yeah, can you break
I'll give them two mice, 2 large mice
instead of 1.
Yeah, at the same time, and after breeding, and for some reason it's worked. And I got that trick from Gary. I got to thank Gary. He's definitely helped me out, put me on the map. But watching a lot of his videos, and he did say that once, just keep feeding it, and that's what I did, and it has worked.
Gary.
Poor Gary.
Yeah, Gary seems like the Wizard of Oz, and he's back there pulling the strings, and when all the rest of us are just characters in his movie. Marshall, you're the Scarecrow.
Can you remind me, or not remind me? I don't even know exactly what your connection is to Gary Shavino. How did you guys link up?
So Gary, I was just watching his video, and I've reached out to him a few times for questions and stuff. But I was just watching one of his videos, and I finally got to breed last year, and breeding's one thing, and selling snakes is a totally different thing. The market wasn't great last year, of course, when I finally got to breed the snakes. So I just reached out to him, and I said, "Hey Gary, I have these couple snakes I'm looking to get rid of. I'm looking to make a name. I'm hopefully got some more stuff coming up in the future." And we talked for a couple weeks, talked for a couple months, and we ended up making the transaction. And he held on to him for a little while, and then did that video and sold him.
Damn, epic. And going back to you kind of getting things kicking and starting with your breeding success, what do you think it was, overall? Do you think it was just kind of just being patient, or? I
think it's patience, and I think don't say you're going to ever breed it before you breed it, because you got to be very humble. You know how it is. And I just, even right now, I with all the eggs that I had, I should have bought another baby rack. and now I'm kind of baby rack short right now. So
You didn't want to jinx yourself, though,
no,
right?
I don't. That's how I feel. I didn't want to jinx myself. I'm like, screw the baby rack. I'm not going to have that many babies. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to get a new baby rack right now.
That's
What kind of, what's your number for the year so far?
So I had 12 Cyclops. They're doing really good. And then I just had 12 designer clutch repeat parent from Bill.
And then there's still another clutch on the way.
Yeah, and then I have a Buddy Buscemi female, like I said, a couple weeks out from pre-lay shed right now.
So how's that going as far as like the feeding and how much of your time it's taken?
So last year it was a struggle, and I think it was a good struggle because I learned a lot. Last year I had 10 babies. 8 were from Bill's clutch, and then 2 were from another clutch. Those 2 from the other clutch were just horrible. Even after 6 or 7 months, I was like, are they, they would eat. Same thing, almost like your snake. They would eat once a month. I'd work on them. I'd get them to eat. They would eat once a month, and then I would try a couple weeks after that, and I would get nothing. And I'd be like, "What is going on here?" So I'd assist feed them a little bit more. But after 8 months, I finally kicked them going, and they're doing good now.
Were you assist feeding what, pink heads or whole pinks or?
No, tails and legs.
Tails.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was old school with that pinky press back in the day, which was horrible. So I was very unsure on assist feeding them, but with the tails and the legs, it's like night and day. It's so much
super easy, isn't it? Yeah, super easy.
And you can almost take that tail and open up their mouth and then insert the pink with the tail to just open up their mouth. And that tail is nice and soft, and you can get them to open up that mouth a lot easier.
Yeah, and what's your take on assist feeding, Joe? Like, do you feel like there's a certain point where there's like no point, or will you assist feed that thing to the end?
Something, I thought that I had like I said, I had 2 Neos that probably should have ended up in the freezer, and I just kept assist feeding them and kept working on them, and they're doing awesome. They're as soon as I put the pink in there, they strike. So
right,
unless if it was if I saw a little one that wasn't doing that, I didn't think was going to make it, I'd probably call it quits. And that's one thing I got to learn. They're not all going to make it. You're going to have some heartache, and that's just the way it's going to be.
All right, that's the truth. Now, overall, you have how many neonates right now?
So I had 12 Cyclops, and then I had 12 from designer. So I have 24 babies right now.
Oh yeah.
And then I kept 5 babies from last year.
So how's the stress level having multiple clutches in a year? Some people take that pretty hard at when they first take it on. How's it been for you?
My first year was horrible because I would go down there. I would get 5 of them. After a month, I got 5 babies going good, and then I had another 5 babies that it didn't matter what I did, scenting, lizard scenting, this, that. I just couldn't get them. Like I said, they would eat once a month if I could get that. I did come up with a little trick. It was a pretty simple trick. What I did was it was like an old mud warmer that heats up the water, like if you had a coffee cup. And what I'll do is I'll heat the water up in that. And what I'll do is I'll take a day-old chick. I'll either cut the wing off, or I'll even put the whole chick in that cup of water. I'll heat it up for 10, 15 minutes. And when you stir it up, you can almost see like a stew oil coming from that chick.
Yeah.
And I'll heat it up, and then I'll defrost my pinks, and I'll put those pinks right in that concoction with the chick. And I'll tell you what, it's really worked for me really good.
Interesting. Yeah.
And like, I think, I had a lot of snakes that would, strike, wrap, and then, then you'd see it on the ground afterward. And I think it's, they just don't like that taste. So, fermenting it in that chick stew, as I would call it, it definitely worked. So when it came to the 12 Cyclops this year, I don't know, maybe God was just finally giving me a break. The first night I had 10 of them shut out. I said, okay, I'm going to, I did my little chick stew cocktail. I put 3 pinks in there and went to feed three of them, start feeding them. All 3 ate right away. on the Cyclops. So I said, all right, got another couple pinks out, tried the next 3, those 3 ate. Did all 10 of them ate the first try. I'm like,
I think that's the trick, because if you thaw out 10,
Ah,
you'll get none.
yeah.
I mean, I've done it before and I've got none. I said, so all 10 of them ate, and I had 2 other ones that hadn't shed yet. And I'm like, and I tapped them and they swung right around, and I was like, hey, let's give it a try. All 12 of them ate the first night, which is crazy. And then I just fed them the other night. I had 2 that dropped and had to redo it, but all 12 of them ate again. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the luck of the draw. Or
yeah, it's such a good feeling when that happens.
It is. I kind of thought it would be a crazy struggle of what I've gone through last year with feeding them, but this year on those Cyclops, they're definitely a different animal. And I don't know, maybe because the incubation temps were so lower that they came out, a little bit. And the other thing is this year, once I let them all 10 of them shed out, and I waited a little while instead of starting to work on them like a day or 2 after they shed. I waited a good week after they shed, and then I started working on them, and it definitely seemed to help a little bit more.
And were you going to say they came out bigger with the cooler temps?
The second clutch, yeah, the Cyclops clutch, they were very tiny. The female and the male were very small. I didn't even think I would get that many eggs. She laid, she's probably maybe a 600-gram female, 700, if that. She's a very small female. Maybe that's why it took her a couple extra years. But she spit out 17 eggs, and I was, two were slugs, so she had 15 eggs. I lost 2 eggs at the end of incubation. They were fully formed, but they were probably the smallest eggs that had dried up in there. So they were perfectly formed, but they were dead. I did have one come out of the egg. He roamed around for about a few hours, and then I saw him perch himself, and then he just dropped dead. And that was probably my only 4th or 5th one as I was watching them hatch. And I'm like, oh no, is this what's going to happen to all the rest of them? I had that fear, but that was the only one that did that. And, it was a long process. Even I had one, actually I had 3 of them that just sat in the egg for 3 days. With their head out, I wasn't going to mess with them. I've decided I'm not a cutter. I want to let them guys come out on their own. And I just gave it some extra time, and I ended up getting 12 neos from that clutch. And they're beautiful. Those Cyclops, I worked for, when I bought them, they came from Ryan Burke from Bushmaster originally. And when they went through their color change, they were beautiful. I didn't get the greatest pictures when it happened, but it was almost like watching a Biak color change. It was just slow, gradual, a lot of blue. They were beautiful, and I said, this is the locality I really want to work on.
Are these red or yellow or a mix?
They were red neos, yeah.
I thought red neos.
Yeah. And I thought for sure they would have thrown some yellows, but it didn't. It was a full red clutch.
Red. Wow.
Yeah.
Probably means one of them's.
Yeah, well, one of them's got to be red dominant.
No, Brian's not listening, but red.
So we'll see in the future. You never know,
And now, out of those 12 Cyclops, how many of those do you keep back?
How many of them am I going to keep back? I'm not sure yet. I mean, I didn't think they were all going to 12 take off like they have.
Awesome.
So I don't know. I think I'm going to keep 4 or 5 back, because you just never know. I see a lot of people. That was one thing I saw. A lot of people would sell, almost up until their last neo, and then have bad luck the next year and not have really anything to show for it. So I definitely want to keep, some back on each of my clutch, for future stuff.
So are your Cyclops, are the parents, are they like nice? Are they blue? What do they look like?
The female's pretty blue. The males, when they were going through their color change, they held their blue for a long time, and then about, I'd say 2 years, they started fading a little bit. The female looks really good though. She's still got a lot of blue in her, and she looks pretty good.
Now, what's your take on as far as what you like to feed your females? I mean, do you like to go rats? Do you like to do mice?
I did early. I did start doing rats, and I had a few issues with 2 of my males. Maybe I shouldn't have been feeding them, pumping them up so much. I did have a prolapse with one, and then I did have another beautiful designer after feeding it a big meal. It ended up having like a tumor in its digestive tract. I don't know if it was liver or what it was, but he kind of, it's just weird. It was very coincidence that I gave it a big feeding, and then after that it developed this mass, and it still would eat and still digest, but it definitely, you could tell it's struggling to pass it through. And I was going to do the necropsy on it, but I think it was more natural than anything. So I just I didn't really want to know, to be honest. It was my blue, beautiful design. It was a Japan, from Buddy Buscemi, and that was the one I really wanted to breed. But shit happens, so you gotta you definitely have losses when you're doing this.
Oh yeah,
it's a numbers game, man. I've said it so many times. It's a numbers game.
I didn't want to ever say that, but it definitely is, because like how I look at it, I wanted to do 1 successful clutch a year, but you really got to do 2 clutches a year to have a little bit of luck, Case
it's all about the numbers, man.
It is.
Yep. So what's the biggest amount of clutches you're looking to get in a year, if you can? Like, what's your goal with that?
Like I said, I just would like to do 1 successful clutch, but I want to try to do 2 a year, and go from there. I like this.
2 clutches a year is a great number.
It is.
I mean, that's really a good number, especially when you're trying to balance other stuff, like work and family.
Oh yeah. The good thing with my work is I used to do construction for a long time and worked a lot of hours, and now I work for the school system at night, so I have the morning free, so I don't have to go to work till 3 o'clock, and my collection has really benefited with that, because after I wake up, I have my coffee, I come down, I see what needs to be cleaned and changed, and I take care of them first thing in the morning, and anything that's dirty gets cleaned, and it's my collection has definitely benefited from it. Taking care of it.
Is that all you're keeping, Joe, or Chondros? I mean,
that's it. Yeah,
you got a relatively small collection then, right?
Yeah, I have 11. I have 5 females, 11 adults total. I have 5 babies from last year that I'll be raising up, and then I'll keep a certain amount of babies this year.
Yeah, very manageable. Very manageable.
Yeah.
Plus, it helps too that you've got 24 good feeders right now.
Fuck.
I mean,
12 of them so far. So Bill's clutch, the second clutch, they're shedding out right now. So we'll see. Once they shed out, like I said, I learned a lot of patience last year. I'm going to let them shed out, give it a week, and then I'll attempt to feed them.
Have you ever
once you get them going, man, like after the 5th or 6th meal, you just, it's just bam, bam, bam. You can feed a rack of 20 of them in less than 5 minutes.
Even these Cyclops, even on their second meal, I'm still in shock. Like, I didn't even have to tap them, and they just swung right around it and nailed it. I'm like, these Cyclops are definitely a different animal than what I've been used to.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. Enjoy it.
I know. I got this other clutch that I'm kind of seeing this, but I learned a lot last year. I learned a lot of little tricks, and hopefully this clutch will go better too.
That's what it's so hard to translate into the message. People that are doing their first clutch, or maybe their first 2 clutches. You can watch all the videos, you can watch all the podcasts, you can talk to all the people, but unless you're down there, doing it and figuring it out largely on your own.
Yeah. And everyone's different. Every
baby's different.
Every Neo has its little, tick or whatever to get it to eat.
Yep. Yeah. It's we've preached it 1,000 times, but you don't really understand it until it's like it's go time. It's
Yeah.
you're heating up the pink. You're opening the tub. You're putting it down there and seeing what that Neo does. You know, it's
Reading it, yeah.
yeah, reading it. It's to me, it's still. I've been doing it a long time. Marshall's been doing it a long time. To me, it's still so exciting. The first time you get to eat. It's like
when I had all 12 of them eat the first night, I was like, okay, what's
Yeah.
going to get me now?
you want to buy a lottery ticket, right?
Yeah. That was my lottery ticket right there for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Now, you know, when it comes to just you getting ready for, you know, next year, right? Like, let's just say, what are you going to hopefully shoot for as far as, you know, pairing goes? Do you want to pair everything again that you did this year? Like, are you okay?
No, I'm
with
going to actually, the Buddy Buscemi female and the Bill female, they'll have bred for the last 2 years. So I'm going to give them a break. I'm probably even going to give the Cyclops a break. I kind of went all in this year with a couple parents just because my daughter next year is going to get married. So I didn't want to have, you know, eggs in the incubator or anything, you know, when she was getting married. So I you know, what I probably will do is I have 2 females that I haven't, you know, their first time is they haven't bred yet. I got a nice a nice Biak and a Rousserong that they were ready this year, but I just, you know, I had enough going on. I didn't want to, you know, chance it. So I might give them a shot next year. And what I might do is, you know, 3 or 4 weeks before her wedding, maybe start pairing them up and see how it goes from there.
That's good. That's good to be patient, you know, and
yeah. I don't want eggs, you know, in the incubator. You know, it's a destination wedding, so I don't want anything to go, you know, wrong. And you know, I live in Massachusetts. We're always getting nor'easters with no power and stuff, and that's
when she'll want to lay the eggs. It's like within a day or two of when you're supposed to leave.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what would happen.
You'll be sweating it for like the 6 weeks leading up to it.
Well, last year, so quick story. Last year, I finally were getting eggs, and I started having some heart trouble, and so I was going back and forth to the doctors, and I'm like, is this for real? Like, am I finally going to have eggs, and then now I'm going to have a heart attack and die, and I'm never going to see these eggs after 30 years of waiting for them? But everything worked out good, so I didn't need surgery. They controlled everything with medications, and you know, all was well. So
now, have you ever had to deal with any kind of like sick snake, like a RI situation or anything like that?
I did. I ended up, you know, that was the thing. I bought a bunch of Neos, and then, of course, during about 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll try to, you know, find some females, older females, and you know how that never works out. And of course, I feel like I was buying a lot of my snakes in the Nido days. So I bought this beautiful designer female, you know, thinking it was my golden ticket. She was an older snake, and, you know, got it here, you know, started running tests on it. Of course, she had Nido. And, you know, I knew kind of, you know, I actually thought, you know, since it hit my house that my whole collection was going to go down. And, you know, I was still learning about Nido and all that. And, you know, that's when you really realize how good these people are. Like, I think, you know, I reached out to Bill, I reached out to Mark Hager, even Buddy Buscemi called me up on a Sunday night and pretty much talked me off the ledge and said, don't worry, dude, like, we've all gone through this, you know, what's it doing? And I said, it's really not doing nothing. It's just, you know, I could just see a little bit. And, you know, he's like, is it in your collection? I said, no, I've had it isolated. And he goes, well, you know, do this, do that. And what I ended up doing was testing my entire collection multiple times. And of course, this one female kept popping up positive. And I had the great idea of, you know, bringing it to my vet saying, oh, well, maybe it's just an RI that was not addressed. And that's why she's popping up with a Nido, you know, positive Nido things. So we, you know, of course we treated her. And as soon as we treated her, she stopped eating and went downhill when the virus took over.
Would you treat her? What do you mean, with antibiotics or something?
Yeah, it was Baytril, and I think it was another antibiotic they treated her with. you know,
orally or
no, they were shots in
injections?
the back. Yeah, they were injections in the back part of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty common
Well,
story, you know.
And then I bought another. It was an import, and so I'm 1 and 1. I bought a beautiful designer, had Nido, ended up putting it down. Then I bought an import that was a beautiful. I thought was a beautiful female. You know, I got it in. It was missing half its tail. It you know, bumps all the way down. It had beautiful color but looked horrible. You know, then I started running tests on her, and it ended up having Nido. And then it ended up shedding plugs like 3 or 4 weeks later after that. And I was like, I'm not gonna put all this work into a
injury to insult to injury, or
yes. I said if you really wanted to, like, I mean, when I saw those plugs, I think it was a good thing, because it just gave me the okay to just, you know, I don't want to mess with that stuff either. You know, I don't, it just, you know, I've spent too much and invested too much to have a Nido collection in the next room over, you know.
Are you done bringing adults into your collection?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'll never, you know.
Everybody's got to learn that one the hard way.
Even people say, you know, I had somebody ask me today, what are you looking, you know, to get into your collection? I'm like, I'm just happy to not have to bring anything into my collection and test the shit out of it and go from there. It's nice, you know, knowing what I have and not have to buy any more snakes for now anyways.
Yeah, you will probably let your guard down in the future, which I think is okay. I went through that for a long time. Like, I'm never bringing another row in here ever. But I think we know a lot more now than we did, you know,
we do
years ago. And so I you know, and I've done it. I've brought animals in, and, you know, you go through the proper quarantine, and you do the proper testing, and you get it from a reputable source. And because eventually, if you want to grow your stuff, you know, you can't be so, you can't keep producing the same thing. But if you want to go to the next level, especially with designer stuff, you've got to bring in, you know, some fresh blood. You just have to.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with, like I said, I want to keep, you know, a couple back from each clutch and, you know, raise those up. And I'm actually a yellow guy. Unfortunately, I love yellow Neos. I fell in love with yellow Neos first and foremost. But I do have one problem. I produce more reds right now. So I'm definitely going to keep, you know, my yellows back, you know, the good ones. And I would like to definitely, like, in the future, see, you know, if those turn out good, is kind of do a yellow project. You know, I want some high-end yellows in there too.
What are you looking for in your yellows? High yellow adults? Is that what you?
Yeah, something different looking. You know, like I said, I'll raise mine up and see if there's anything special about them. If not, then you know, it is what it is. But I like, you know, even, you know, my first year breeding, I noticed a lot of, you know, people out there, you know, they really can't afford, you know, a red Neo. So their next step is a yellow Neo. And I would like to, you know, try to produce a nice
You want to accommodate for the, you know, for the unfortunate.
Exactly, yeah. You know, so.
Hey, listen, we all got to start somewhere, man. My first snake, which is my queen, man, Mimi, she's a Biak. She's a yellow neonate. But it's also true, man. Yellows is a step up. It gets you to that next step at some point. And, you know, mind you, there's some really nice yellows out there, and you can't ever really kind of knock a yellow. And when I say yellow, I mean designer yellow, Ryan Young.
Designer yellow.
But anyways, like, one thing I did want to ask, you know, because Cyclops is for sure one of my favorite localities. Do you have another kind of locality out there you would like to have in the mix, and something you like to, you know, build a foundation off of, like you've already started?
I think probably Biak. I have a nice Biak pair, and I tried to pair him up. And he's just an angry one. And I tried pairing him up with a couple females this year, and he just didn't have. He wasn't having it. So I kind of wanted to do the Biak locality pairing. I don't know if that male's going to work. I definitely, now that I look at it, having one locality clutch and one designer clutch a year, I think would be perfect. You kind of got the best of both worlds right there.
Absolutely.
I definitely want to do my part in locality. I mean, you don't see them coming in anymore. I mean, if they are coming in, then
they're mislabeled.
What's that?
I said if they are coming in, they're mislabeled.
Oh yeah. I've seen a lot of mislabeled ones, but even the ones that Ryan used to get, it doesn't seem like he's getting those anymore either.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see Ryan post.
No, you don't.
As much as he was like 5 years ago, for sure.
Yeah.
5 years ago, every week he was posting availability, and you just don't see it that much anymore.
I had bought a bunch of yellow Neos from him. I bought a Cyclops, and I bought another one that I'm raised up, and they ended up turning into males. But there's two that I don't know if I really have room in the projects for them, but you don't see them anymore. So I'm like, I really should probably hold on to these things for a couple more years and just see where they go from there.
Yeah. I mean, how far back can you really recall looking at stuff coming in? Because I know you've been dabbling for a few years now, but was there a time and place where you're really paying attention to what was coming in?
Yeah, I mean, like I'd say 8 years ago, there was a lot of stuff coming in, and it was reasonable. And then, COVID happened, and I don't know what happened. I mean, the prices, you couldn't get anything. And unfortunately, I had bought a couple snakes during COVID. And like I said, I felt like everybody that was selling something during COVID, it either had Nido or it was a $5,000 snake,
Yep. Facts. Now, I mean, where are you looking to? I mean, because listen, you have 20 plus neonates, right? Let's say your luck continues, and I don't want to call it luck, but I'm just saying, let's say the hard work continues to pay off, right? Where are you looking to sell all of these neonates? Where are you looking to get yourself out there? Are you going to start like a website, MORPH market, anything like that?
I probably will do the MORPH market. I've kind of, Gary really did help me out a lot. I've got a lot of people responding to it. A lot of people are interested in that Cyclops. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of people that do reach out for the Cyclops, if I can't work out a deal with that, maybe I can talk them into a designer, and go from there. This will really be my first year. I did sell a couple last year, which that was probably my best moment besides breeding, is actually selling your first snake. You can breed them, but selling them, like I said, is two different animals right there.
Different beasts for sure.
Yeah,
I would think the Cyclops would be high demand for those.
Yeah, they've been very popular.
Yeah, red Cyclops babies. Yeah. I would imagine they.
Yeah, they've been pretty popular. A lot of people have inquired.
I'll be right back.
You're good.
And
Sorry.
that's one good thing though. So, and like I said, I've been talking to a lot of people. If I can't talk them into the Cyclops, maybe I could talk them into a designer one.
Yeah. Now, any adults you have right now, were any of them yellow or are they all red?
I have 3 or 4 males that are yellow, that were yellow Neos. And I have a female, a Roosterong. She was yellow. So I definitely have some yellow in the arsenal.
Bill, sickness pairing was red to red, or that's all red dominant pairing right there, right?
It was red to red, and every animal in the clutch, the sickness clutch, was red.
So if sickness were to pair up to something, would that whole clutch be red? The entire sickness clutch was red. He only produced one clutch.
but it was
Right.
all red. So he was probably red dominant. He bred that blue Cyclops locality, and I'm trying to remember, that was not her first pairing. She had produced a time before that, and I can't remember if she threw any yellows or not, to be honest. But the Signals was probably a red thrower.
And your Cyclops pairing, Joe, was a red to red, right?
Yeah, red to red.
Okay.
And I mean, I kind of had it in mind because they were two beautiful red Neos. But I thought for sure they were going to throw some yellows, but they didn't at all. And all those reds. I mean, there are a few that have a little bit more diamonds than normal, but they're beautiful. They really are. And
So the picture I was looking,
I was hoping to get some yellows out there, but I'll take the reds, no problem. And even Bill's designer clutch, I had 3 yellows last year, and I only had 2 yellows this year. So.
I was going to ask if that was checking out your Instagram today, and that was I saw the picture of but it looked like mostly red clutch with a couple yellow babies.
Yeah.
So that was the
survived. Yep.
Okay. That was the designer clutch.
Yep. And last year, actually, I think all the yellows survived. There were 3 that survived. Like I said, I lost a couple on that clutch last year too, on both clutches. And like I said, I think it was more, with incubation than anything.
Did you keep those yellows back, or did you sell those? Or
I sold 2 of them. I have 1, so I have 1 that I kept.
I gotcha.
And he's got like a kind of like a block pattern on him. He looks very different than any of the other yellows.
Huh.
I was hoping to get a blaze, like a Bill Stiegel.
Those are cool. Yeah, I think
I didn't get one this year.
I think the first kind of like blaze neonates I saw came from a Bill Stiegel production, but Ryan Glenn was posting them. I think one of my very first dirty yellows I saw came from Ryan Glenn, and then that's when I connected Ryan Glenn's work to you, Bill.
Yeah,
is that right? That's right. Right. He has a lot of those dirty, nasty looking designer yellows, right?
Yeah, he's produced some blaze yellows, but yeah. But the Jaeger biscuit pairing, which has happened 3 times now, every single yellow, every single one from that pairing has been blaze.
Damn.
And those have been amazing looking. Some of the color changes on them.
Yeah, I wish it translated into something special into the adults. From what I can tell, it hasn't. But some of those blaze babies, just I think they're my favorite looking.
They look amazing. They really do.
Looking Neo, right? Like if I could have one, it would be a blaze yellow.
So
Yeah.
if you have one of those yellows with that insane blaze, look on it, what does that blaze usually turn into from your guys' experience? Like what color?
Nothing. That's what we were just saying. Yeah.
It just goes green. Like it doesn't turn into.
They all turn green no matter what.
Really?
I've seen some blaze yellows that have turned relatively high yellow as adults, but the blaze itself doesn't really translate into anything that I can tell.
Same.
Just looks badass.
So it's just more of a like, okay, this is cool at the moment, but when it comes down to the OCC, I can't price you anything, like you're yellow neonate, unfortunately.
Trust me, the blaze sell for more.
Yeah.
I bet they do, just because the way they look, right?
Just the way they look, yeah, and you get a couple of good years out of them, just look badass. And who knows?
You gotta wonder what's going on with them genetically, because it's almost like it's halfway in between. I mean, obviously they're more yellow than red, but to me that blaze is a like heavy. I mean, I think of like a red influence, really.
Yeah, and who knows what is blaze genetic? I mean, will a blaze baby throw blaze babies? I don't know.
It sounds like it if Jaeger throws them consistently.
Well, only Jaeger throws them a lot, but when he throws them with biscuit, everyone is blaze.
Everyone.
Now, when he pairs with others, he'll throw some that are non-blaze. He'll throw some mild blaze. He'll throw some heavy blaze.
That's interesting. I'll have to go back and look through my old pictures just out of curiosity to see if Tony, because his Jaeger's sire was Tony Montana, right?
Correct.
Yeah. See, because I've produced a few blazes, and I think they might actually have been from him.
Yeah. See, I think it's probably has a genetic component to it. So that would be that'd be a cool animal to have. You could have an animal that produces blaze babies.
Yeah.
I got a rotten banana from Buddy Buscemi, and I know one of the parents was a rotten banana. So that was what I paired up last year, hoping I was going to get some rotten bananas, but it didn't work out for me.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I still I think I'm going to pair that male up with actually my Biak next year and see what happens there.
Was the Biak yellow or red? I can't remember.
She's a red one.
Red. Okay.
Yeah.
And where'd she come from?
She actually came from Wilbanks, Mike Wilbanks, that does the ball pythons.
Yep.
Yeah,
I love his incubators.
Yeah, it was a red import, and it was actually marked as a female. And I bought it. I didn't believe it, and it ended up. They marked it right. It ended up being a female.
I always think they guess too. I'm not gonna lie.
Trust me.
Yes, he's only gonna piss off half of his.
They go like this. You go,
yeah,
female. Okay,
Some
good.
magic to 8-ball.
Well, okay. What's it gonna sell for more? Female. Okay, so let's put it.
Yeah. And actually, I got it at a good price. I was surprised, but prices have definitely changed in 5 years.
I will say to anyone out there who wants to get into the green tree python game, and they're like, it is what it is. You come across an import and it's nice looking. I say take a gamble if it's a neonate, but don't do it if it's an adult. I think if you have no chondros whatsoever and you just want to see, if this is even meant for you, losing a $300-$400 snake isn't going to be as bad as losing a $4,000 snake.
But I used to tell people, because I had a lot of people reach out, if they're spending $600 or $700 on a yellow Biak, I mean, you might as well, by the time you're done testing and all that, you might as well just buy a yellow, USB, and go
for
from there.
For 900, right?
Exactly. At least you're
yellow for 900.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But what if it's a nasty looking red? Okay, hold on. What if it's just a really promising looking red? A little different there, right? Situation's a little different.
Take your chances.
Yeah. No one wants to take a chance on a fucking yellow. Just saying.
I bought a lot of yellows. I've taken my chances, that's for sure.
Now, do you think yellows will catch up in popularity at some point, like the reds? If you were to kind of predict, Joe, down the road 20 years or whatever?
I mean, honestly, what I've seen in the last couple of years is there's not a lot of yellows. Everybody's producing reds. I mean, I'm not going to say, I know a lot of people have talked that they're kind of designing the yellow out of there, but I don't know. You don't see a lot of yellows anymore. Everybody wants the red designers, and there are a lot of people doing the designers now. But I think there'll be a market. Like I said, I had a lot of people reach out that necessarily didn't want a red Neo, but would be more inquired into buying a yellow one just because it's cheaper. And I think, Bill, you've even said that having a line for people that are getting into the hobby would be a nice thing.
Absolutely. And I still, I produce yellows every year, and I love to put a yellow into, like you said, kind of the first keeper that's unsure.
Yeah.
And, they don't want to drop money on a red. And I think it's a great option. And,
because if they're going to have success with that yellow, they're gonna buy a red afterward.
That's that's the goal, right?
It's the crack theory of chondros.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Okay, if we were to put statistics out there, though, are you more than likely to get a tire kicker from a yellow neo inquiry versus a red neonate?
I got so many jokes right now, but
you can answer that. Bill, you probably have the most yellow to red sales. So let me ask you that, Bill. Are tire kickers coming more on the yellow side or the red side?
Dude, I can honestly say I get very, very few tire kickers buying green trees.
But if we were to pick ratio here, are they coming from the yellow or the red?
Oh, dude, I mean, literally, I get so few tire kickers. I mean, in the green trees, it's crazy. I mean, just so many people that contact me, they
want
either
the
they
business.
have questions or about green trees that I'm happy to answer, or if they're serious and they know what they want, man, it's almost like a non-issue.
I know they either look at the price and you'll never see them or hear from them again.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna start, texting you and they'll be wanting pictures and stuff like that. And that's when you kind of know they're serious.
Yes, and I've learned one thing, like whenever anybody inquires that I don't have animals posted, I say, listen, I'll have animals available. This is the price range. And either, like you said, Joe,
yeah,
listen, they know it, they expect it. Okay, let me see the parents, or you never hear from them again, which is fine. But the people that do send that second inquiry, okay, yeah, I'm in that range. Man,
yeah.
the majority of them go through, and fulfill, a commitment.
Yeah. Now,
way different than other markets. It's just a smaller group. It's
totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's growing though, isn't it?
It definitely is, and I like getting the relationships with people because, we're all kind of weird snake people, and we got to find other snake people to talk to. So it's good like that. I do like that. I do talk to a lot of people, and even if it doesn't end up as anything, at least you got that connection with them.
That's the biggest thing, right? Is the connecting with the people, because it also kind of keeps you just looking forward to something too. It keeps you busy.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to keep busy in this shit.
It's even though it's a lot of work, it's really just a lot of patience. Breeding these things and raising them up. And that's the first thing I tell people, when they inquire, I say, listen, this is a snake for display. This is not a snake that you take out, you play with the kids, it's a display snake. That's what it is. And some of them get it, and then there are a few people that don't get it. They're like, oh no, we can't play with it. I'm like, no, it's not one of those,
Imagine if we get so sales are so good that we need to start vetting our customers and who buys. We should start instantly showing them the worst thing that could happen to your chondro, like pictures of a prolapse or something, and see what their reaction is. And if they can handle it, okay, then I think you're good. You dealt with anything like that? Something as horrific as a prolapse?
I did have a small prolapse with one of my males. Thank God it went back in. I've never had a problem with it. And that was actually, like I said, I was feeding it, I think jumbo mice, and it was just too small of a snake. I was trying to raise it up, and that's when I kind of, I don't get me wrong, I've fed some, weaned rats and stuff, but I don't even go with the jumbo mice anymore. I'd rather just feed them an extra mouse, Now, 3 or 4 years ago during COVID, those rodent prices were crazy. Luckily, I found a local guy that I've been getting them from for the last couple months, and there's definitely a difference. They're so fresh, you can tell him he just put them down this week, and I'm saving a ton of money right now, so it's good in that sense.
Having a rat plug is very crucial. That's for sure. Because I can tell you where the prices aren't dropping. That's pet shops. Pet shops are still murdering right now. I think it's like $10 for a medium or something like that.
What? Oh my God.
Dude,
that's insane.
Yeah, it's bad, bro.
So back in the day, I had a shit ton of snakes. I had a albino Burmese python that would just eat anything you gave him. And, this was probably 25, actually maybe even 30 years ago. But the funniest thing is when you're walking into these mom and pop pet shops and you're like, oh, let me get that big rat over there. And they're like, oh, is this a pet? And you're like, yeah, this is for my daughter, And
right.
You get it all boxed up and then you bring it home and you're like, no, sorry, Mr. Rat. You're going in the cage.
Gotcha.
I gotcha. So, but these, these pet shops, you got to tell them, that, oh yeah, it's a pet,
Yep.
But it's life is so much easier buying them frozen, you don't have to go through all that anymore.
So listen up. I got a wrap up question, and then we'll go with Bill and Marshall next here, Joe. And you know, basically, after talking about 8 years of you kind of going through it and kind of getting to where you're at now, what can you advise anyone out there who's in the middle right now, buying neonates, establishing, trying to conquer their dreams in the chondro game? Any advice for all the new ones out there who are just that were in your position just a few years ago?
Just patience, and you know, have patience. You know, do your quarantine. That is a big thing. I can't stress enough. You know, testing your animals, and you know, if you're going to invest and build a collection, you got to test them. You know, I was lucky. I didn't have a ton of other animals. I only keep green tree pythons, so it was a lot easier for me to go through my collection and keep testing them. You know, and it still costs thousands of dollars to test them. It's, you know, I went through fish head, and I do like them, but you know, you're talking almost, you know, it was $80 a test, you know, for each animal, and you know, testing them a couple of times, but you know, it makes me sleep better. I know I've tested them, and they're pretty clean, and you know.
Dude, I need to hook you up with Chad at RAL, man.
I know. I've looked into him, and I should. It's a lot cheaper, and I should.
$25 a test, buddy, all day.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's got to be a daunting thing trying to, you know, get into green trees now. You know, cold. You know, like
Cold,
not being able to not having any, and trying to build a collection, buy neonates.
Yeah.
So much easier when I started doing it. You know.
But the good thing with that is, you know, if you're buying one at a time, at least you can test it, you know, one at a time, and not, you know, hopefully not have any issues in the future. You know, if you're buying one neo.
Yeah, Marshall, I agree with Joe. I mean, when you were building collections, you know, even a decade before I was, you know, a lot of people in your era did not survive. I mean, they built massive collections, but they all crashed. You know, probably because of Nido. Now,
oh yeah, for sure.
People can start with a clean slate. Yeah. You know,
I still see.
I just meant as far as the availability of. I mean, like, you know, I could go to, you know, Eugene always had, you know, tens or dozens of animals available. Rico had dozens of animals available. There was Bushmaster, if you wanted to go that route. There was, you know, it just seemed like the captive bred, there was a lot more availability than there is now. You know, now
I think that's going to tick back up. I really do. It just takes.
Yeah, I agree.
Just takes a long time, you know, obviously, you know, to have the number, because the popularity now compared to when you were, you know, trying to build your collection is insane.
Big time.
Right.
Yeah. Not even close.
Yeah.
Right.
And I still see a lot of people buying snakes, and they're not testing. You know, they're buying snakes from every end, and I, you know, I think people should take a little more, you know, into it. If you're going to invest all that money into buying a bunch of different snakes, you really should, you know, have a little bit of quarantine and test them out.
Yeah,
no doubt. There's no excuse this day and age that, you know, no excuse not to test whatever animal, whatever source you get it from. You know, if you don't know about Nido and quarantine, you know, you don't deserve to have a green tree.
Yeah, you hear that? You don't deserve it.
Oh, you're gonna find out the hard way, anyways. When the thing
right,
rolls.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, here's the thing about chondros, right? Like, you take shortcuts, you find out very quick what happens with that shortcut. And the bad thing about coming up on a shortcuts might even be in your favor. Eventually, you keep doing that, and you're gonna find out something will happen for sure. It's historically known in the chondro world. Something will happen. I don't give a fuck who you are. At some point,
you gotta stay humble. You can't. You gotta stay humble and hope for the best.
Story of my life. All right, who wants to go next? Bill or Marshall? Wrap up question.
I'll go. So we hadn't really talked about your setup and your room very much. What is that? How is your setup?
Setup's basic. You know, the Neo tubs. I just had this camera rack designed by a local guy. I definitely like that. my adults are in. I like, I have a set of cubes, and I really the 24-inch cubes, and I certainly haven't been a fan of them. I have a set of these cages. I think they're 36 long by 18 or 20 tall, and maybe 20 wide. And I feel like that's the perfect size. You can stack 4 up. They can stretch out a lot. I have my females in that, and then I have my males in the 24-inch cubes.
And is that as your room, like is it a basement room, an extra bedroom, or
yeah?
what?
So I actually I had them in my back basement room for the last many years. And what had happened was just recently we have to have a bunch of work done in there on the furnace, and we have to have the oil tank, put a new oil tank back there. So I decided to move within the last 2 weeks. I decided, with all the eggs hatching and everything, I decided to move my whole collection into another room for now. I like that back room because I would get a lot of heat from the furnace. This room we're going to have to heat with a radiant heater. But with this room, I have 3 windows, and they wake up. It's very bright. They wake up as the sun's rising, and I can kind of set my lights so the sun rises, the lights click on, then the lights will shut off, and they'll see the sunset. And it's nice to finally see my animals see the sun rise and sunset, because you feel bad. They're stuck in a box. And I definitely think, I'm kind of glad that I already bred this year, because I don't know if it's going to screw them up all of a sudden, giving them light all of a sudden. But like I said, I already bred this year, so I'm ready. I'm hoping that the light will kind of be a good thing when it comes to breeding, and then I also have windows to kind of cool off the room a little bit more too.
And are you doing ambient heat? Sorry, MJ. You doing ambient heat?
All my cages have either radiant heat panels or heat tape.
No ambient heat?
In
the room?
Ambient heat, I try to keep it in the mid 70s, I would say. When I first started my collection, I ran it really cold, and I realized that, was not a good thing. It would dry them out a lot. I try to keep an average ambient of like 72 to maybe 75, 76. And then like I said, everything runs off herp stats or the heat tape, like on the racks, and the radiate heat panels on the cages.
Well, I'm gonna say it right now. Fuck those panels.
I'll tell you what,
you gotta be careful. You just gotta be careful. I mean, they're great, but you just you gotta know how to use them. That's all.
I keep my snakes very cold. I don't know. I know a lot of people keep them high, but I have my heat panel set at like 79 to 81 tops. So they're moving around. I want to see them move around to kind of adjust to that heat, instead of just sitting there baking under that heat panel.
So if that's the case, once you have a female ovulate, that's when you increase heat for that female?
Yeah, I definitely increase heat, because you can see them. They go under that heat panel, and they're sucking up the heat.
Yeah. Right on. All right, Bill, you're up.
I guess I want to know what you're going to do, like designer-wise next. Like,
yeah.
you got some melanistic blood in your collection.
I'm really excited. I have a Buddy Buscemi female that's got a lot of good different bloodlines in it, and I had tried her with a couple different males, and that was the one that gave me the awful clutch last year. That I think was my own fault. So this year I tried a couple different males, and she was ready, and none of the males really seemed like they wanted to go with her. So I ended up taking. He seems to be my stud of the collection. That was the TK male that bred with Bill's snake.
Yeah.
That gave me a lot of different blood. I paired those 2 up, and within the first week, they locked. Actually, the first day they locked, and within 3 or 4 days, they disconnected, and she ovulated a couple weeks later. So I'm excited on that blood and that that Buddy Buscemi one, to see how that will turn out. It's pretty cool to have, Buddy Buscemi blood, Bill Stiegel blood, You know, I think I even got some Marshall blood in there somewhere, I'm sure. So,
Well,
Wow. Quit
if,
bragging.
if you have my blood in there, then you have Marshall.
yeah, exactly.
Because
exactly.
Marshall produced Jaeger.
Yeah,
And so yeah.
Oh, is that true?
yeah.
I forgot. That's amazing to know. I'm not that upset anymore that I don't have something from Marshall. Quite a little bit. I
Yeah.
definitely still want some Marshall.
You
I'm just
do.
saying. That's cool. I didn't know that. Wow.
And I think I even got some of Marshall. I don't know if it's Marshall's blood or it was before on Buddy Buscemi's side too.
So wait, are you talking about like we have a point percentage of a head albino somewhere, or is that not even?
Supposedly that rotten banana supposedly has a little bit in it. I was told. There was another rotten banana that Buddy Buscemi had that somebody else had posted for sale for a long time, and he kept saying it had, I don't know, a little bit of albino in them, you know.
Would have been Versace blood versus Jaeger was Tony Montana and I think Hillary Webb female, which was Eugene Bissett OS line.
Right, exactly. And so no albino chance in there.
Yeah, not in the sickness side, but if
no.
maybe he had something, if he had something from, it would have been from Versace if it had albino possibilities.
Yeah, it's actually you know that it's the same pairing as the you know how Buddy had that snake that, you know, they call it melanistic, I guess.
Yeah.
He talked about it. I guess it had passed after 2 years, but it was a melanistic snake, and that's some of the bloodline in that rotten banana that I have.
Oh, not melanistic,
Hypomelanistic, yeah.
Hypomelanistic, yeah. I actually have a sibling from that Buddy sent me from that clutch, a male, that he wanted me to just hold on to.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I have a male rotten banana from him, and I think I want to pair that up with that Biak and hopefully see what happens.
What does a hypochondro look like?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the?
I'm not exactly sure. The one that I have here did not display the hypo trait that Buddy thought.
Yeah, mine didn't either. So.
But it's a sibling, so maybe if it was a recessive trait like albino, maybe the animal that I have here, the Joe's animal, would carry it. I'm not exactly sure how Buddy described the hypomelanistic trait, but I know he talked to some people about it, and he was pretty confident in at least exploring it.
I do remember that now that you mention it, that he had, it was a unusual looking animal. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, I got a little bit of that, so I'm definitely going to keep that snake, and that'll be a future pairing. You know,
Be cool to see, and also just awesome to kind of get to know you a lot better, Joe. You know, I appreciate your support. You know, you being a part of the Trap family, but talking to you like this and getting, you know, a deeper dive into what you've been going through to get to where you're at, it's pretty refreshing. It's awesome to hear.
No, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I mean, you guys are, you know, Marshall, Bill, you guys are, you know, you're royalty out there, you know. So,
Well,
Bill, that's Bill.
You gotta start selling your snakes now.
I mean, I got to start producing more than 4 a year before.
That is true.
Hey, but that's kind of what makes Marshall royalty, is that he doesn't sell his snakes. That's kind of like the whole thing. And then Bill's on the other end of the spectrum, where
I sell everything.
Where he's selling everything.
I'd rather be on Bill's end, trust me.
And that's why I'm breeding Bill's snake right now.
That's right.
Hey, check it out. Hey, real quick, Joe, hot seat questions before you leave. You cool with that?
Yep.
All right, guys, get the likes up, please. Hot seat questions for Joe, Westgate, and then we'll end the last 2 hot seat questions with Bill and Marshall. Hot seat questions coming hot. You ready, Joe?
Yep.
Here we go. Frozen thought or live?
Frozen.
First thing you like to offer a baby green tree python?
Pink.
Chick down or no chick down?
Chick down.
Chick
down stew.
Say that again.
A chick down stew.
Chick down stew. A cut or no cut?
No cut.
Pre first shed meal or post first shed meal?
Post.
One designer bloodline you would like to add to your collection today?
I really like that tiger stripe. You know, I would really like to get that, but it's very expensive.
Dirty. Yeah, it's fit. I love that shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, hold on. To spray a chondro or to never spray a chondro?
I'm a sprayer. I tried a few years not spraying, and I'm definitely a sprayer. You know, when it's summertime and it's humid, you know, you definitely don't have to spray as much. But living in Massachusetts, you gotta be a sprayer. They won't.
What's crazy for us in SoCal, this is our humid time of the year, and then summer, fucking dry as a goddamn
really
desert. Yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's the opposite here. Wintertime, it's dry. Summer, it's humid.
Yay imports or boo imports?
I would say yay. You just, you know, nowadays you got to really be cautious, I would say.
If you could import one locality of chondro locality, any locality out there, what would it be?
I don't know. I mean, you're not going to get any of the lemon tree or anything anymore. So it's.
But if you were to dream for it, it would be a lemon tree.
I mean, I don't know. It's. If I was going to bring in anything that I could, honestly, I would. I don't know. I've looked at a lot of different animals, and the only thing that really excites me is some of the vipers, and I know I can't have those. So
that's not the hot seat question, unfortunately. I'm asking for a chondro locality. Give me anything, Joe. Come on, give me a locality you like that you could bring in.
I don't know. Like I said, probably the lemon tree. You know.
That's crazy because this guy was sounding like a huge locality buff not too long ago, and then now he can't even give you a fucking locality you want to bring in from the import side.
I mean, I already got what I need. I have, you know, I bought what I need. So,
what about a real Kofiau?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have a little bit of that in one of them actually. I have a mixed locality one I got from Ryan that has a little bit of Kofiau in it actually.
Beautiful. Steak or fish?
Steak.
Favorite cut of steak?
Probably T-bone.
Yay alcohol or boo alcohol?
Yay alcohol. Beer.
Favorite? What's your favorite beer?
Yeah.
Corona.
Corona?
Yeah.
You like Mexico, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. All right. Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Van Halen.
All right, a little word association. Say the first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Yeah.
Milk.
Reese's Cups.
Substrate.
Pee-pee pads.
First time green tree python keeper.
Leave it alone.
That was great. Stuck shed.
Just give it a soak.
Instagram trolls.
I don't really deal with them too much yet. I honestly just started my Instagram like I was telling you a little while ago, so it's all pretty much new to me.
Last but not least, coolest reptile podcast in the world.
Trap Talk.
Yeah. All right, who wants to go next? Bill or Marshall?
I go.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yay Carpondro or boo Carpondro? And remember, Gary's going to listen to this. It's past his bedtime now, but he'll listen.
He's in his Taylor Swift fucking pajamas right now. He's like this, like, oh my God.
I only keep green trees, so I mean they are cool to look at. You know, so I'm gonna have to say yay. You know, unfortunately, wow. I mean they're pretty cool to look at. You know, if I
cool.
Fuck you, Gary. Fuck you, Gary.
If I had the extra room, you never know.
Dude. So you're saying if you were going to add something, you'd add Carpondro?
No, I'm not saying that.
You just said that.
No, he's saying like I guess he would maybe, but wouldn't be the next thing you would add. I don't think.
Yeah, no.
He's not trying to piss Gary off that much. You know.
No, I gotta stay on Gary's good side.
Yeah. All right, Marshall, what you got for him?
All right, so I was going to base this hot seat question off one of the usual ones, but so. Sports, yay sports, boo sports. So I'm gonna ask two,
sure,
or maybe three.
I know. I'm definitely sports. I'm definitely a racing kind of guy. I like motocross and NASCAR.
Yeah, I should have asked. Thank you, Marshall, for saving me on that.
Yeah, I'm an old motocross guy. I love dirt bikes and motorcycles and.
I gotta ask you, what era? Because I raced for like 8 years, and my dad did AMA Supercross. In the 80s.
I've kept track of every era except for I would say probably the Ricky Carmichael era. Those 7-8 years, I didn't really keep track, but I'm back from Jeff Ward, Brock Glover,
Yeah.
So,
James Stewart.
Larry Ward. Now, James Stewart was a little bit after Carmichael. Or actually around the same time as Carmichael, because I was.
Yeah, they raced a couple of years, and then he was after.
Yeah, I saw one of the first battles between Carmichael and James Stewart. It was one of the best races I've ever seen. It was here in San Diego. Go ahead, Marshall. My bad.
Are you a football Patriots fan?
I am. Yeah, we had a good run.
It's ended
so this was my original hot seat question.
Raiders all day.
Best
Silver
Patriots.
Joe.
Best Patriots player other than Tom Brady or Aaron Hernandez.
Wow. How would you say that? Ouch, dude.
I don't know. Randy Moss was pretty good.
Randy Moss, but it was short-lived. But Randy Moss was great on the Patriots. That was entertaining, bro.
We've had so many good players. That's the thing. And obviously, it really did come down to Tom Brady because you saw what happened afterward.
Yeah. And let's give props to someone who's in the reptile industry that used to play for the Patriots, Chad Brown. I gotta say, shout out to Chad Brown. I kind of grew up watching him play in the Patriots, so that was great.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, great time tonight, Joe. I appreciate you so much. We just had shy of 60 people tapped in tonight. So what do you have to say to all the love and support that you had on tonight's show?
No, I want to thank everybody for tapping in. And, if anybody, wants to reach out and talk, green trees, I'm fine with that. I will have a few available, hopefully this fall, and go from there,
So would you say Instagram's the best place to kind of inquire about that or just follow you?
Instagram or Facebook. I'm on both.
All right.
I'm not far. You can find me pretty easily.
Yeah, you actually find his link to his Instagram in the description below. Go give him a follow. And thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you so much. I can't wait to have you back on sometime. No,
sounds good. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Good to talk to you, Joe.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys. Give it up.
Good luck, guys.
It's a wrap for Joe Westgate. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. All right, go call Gary, see if he's pissed. Later, Joe. Take care, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
See you, Joe.
See you, Joe.
Damn, man. You got Gary mad about that one, Bill. That Carpondro. I mean,
he'll get over it.
Hey, dude, how is your Carpondro doing, though? Since we're on the subject, how's your new inquiry doing?
It's doing awesome, and it was.
Oh, did you get a new one?
You got a Carpondro.
Got
a new one.
Brand new 75%er.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Insane. It's incredible.
What is the one that you already have?
It's a 50.
Okay.
50-50. This is a year-old animal that was at Tinley. A friend of mine saw it at Tinley, picked it up for me. So I had Susie at Ship Your Reptiles ship it down to me. It's doing great. It was
that's like the little baby you just recently posted.
Yeah, the little yellow baby.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's doing great. It's already eaten several times, and it's a nasty little shit. Much more temperamental than like a pure green tree of the same age, size. All the baby green trees are just super chill. This thing's a little dick. It's the carpet in it.
I bet they're great eaters.
Oh, this thing just it wants to eat anything. Just you open up the cage and just ready to bite.
Do you know the sex on this 75%er?
No.
Okay, so let's just say theoretically it's a female, right? And then the other one you have now is no longer around. What would you put to that female?
I would never ever try to produce or breed a Carpondro again. I had
What's the point? Why you have it then? I don't get it. Come on.
Wait, why not?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why not?
Dude, they broke my heart, man. I tried for 5 years. I tried to produce them. I bred them. I had awesome locks. I had a 50% Carpondro bred to a 75% Carpondro male, and they did everything right. She laid a big clutch of slugs and then died a month later. I said,
oh, shit.
After that, I said, I'm done with them. I just want a few. They look badass. And
so who produced it? Despite Gary's best efforts, people are still breeding them, huh?
So I can't even remember. Right? This guy's name was Jeff. So a guy named Brandon Osborne. Do you know Brandon
Yeah,
Osborne?
of course. Yeah, I know Brandon.
This is Brandon's friend. Brandon is a very old school guy. He's done a little bit of everything. Brandon's produced some amazing Carpondros.
Oh yeah. I thought Ryan was going to suggest breeding it to another chondro and make 88. What would that be, like 88.5?
That's
And
Super red.
that's what I tried to do that too.
Yeah, I would hope you would breed that 75% to a super red and then send one to Ryan as a gift.
And Gary.
Yeah.
There will be no breeding of the Carpondros, but this thing looks badass. And I saw some siblings that are same pairing, a year later. They look unbelievable. You would never guess that these things were yellow. You know, this thing's yellow. They turn blue. You know, they turn blue as adults.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some crazy Carpondros. I mean, even yours, Bill. I mean, as adults, they're just nuts. It's like
they're crazy.
You can't really describe it to anything else. It's in its own like league of its own. You know what I mean? It's pretty impressive, I will say.
Yeah.
I've got some great pictures of you from the night we were over at Bill's house holding it after I think it just lit somebody up.
Yeah, Ashley.
Oh yeah, it was Ashley.
Yeah, she's bleeding everywhere, and I just went in there and grabbed it because you just got to have a way to approach it. And but yeah, anyways,
that thing's a stunning animal, Marshall. The one you saw 50-50, but it looks much more like a carpet python.
Yeah,
75%ers, dude. They look like a freak green tree on steroids.
Yeah,
that's what they look like.
Yep.
So I love it.
Yeah, can't wait to see it grow.
Me too.
Yeah, good episode, fellas. I appreciate you so much. Well, let me get what's your overall assessment on tonight's show, Marshall? What do you think of Joe Westgate?
Thought it was awesome, man. It's nice to see somebody, like what I said would call doing it right. Being patient, buying babies, raising them up, putting in the work. Not taking any shortcuts, and it's paying off for him. So, yeah, I think it's great for him.
What you got, Bill?
It's the way to go.
Agree with what Marshall said. He's doing it right, and he, kind of reminds me of myself at his stage. I was, and hopefully I'm still very humble about keeping and breeding green trees. I think they can turn on you on a dime. I'm very pessimistic almost all the time about pairings and eggs and neos, and I think you just have to be humbled and pessimistic and just thankful and all of that to be successful, and he has been.
Yep, I agree. You guys are awesome. Appreciate it. Another great Tuesday night in the books. Red Mountain Herps on IG. Best be following him, and of course the mayor, Phoenix Reptiles. Catch you guys here next week. Have a good night. But give it up for the big dogs, Marshall Mendez and Bill Siegel. It's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen.
See you, fellas.
Bye, guys. Hey, Marshall, have fun, bro. Be safe out there, all right?
I will. I'm going to try not to die.
Stay away from the
women. Marshall. Have fun, bro.
Later, Bill.
See ya.
Peace. Thank you guys out there for tapping in for Joe Westgate. What a guy, man. Like Marshall said, this is somebody who is laying it down with the type of example. It's the way to follow. Just be patient. Enjoy the time while you have, and just, yeah, man. Results will come with time. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed tonight's show, why don't you get the likes up for Joe Westgate? Hit that like button. It's a free feature, and hit that subscribe button. If you want to be reminded of every episode moving forward, if you hit that bell notification sign right there and select all, you will be notified of every single episode, every single podcast. Of course, tomorrow's Wednesday, Cush's Corner. So please tap in for Cush's Corner going down Wednesday, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time right here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network. And I'll catch you here Thursday. Got my dog, Antoine Hood, coming back for his round 2 episode. So it's going to be great. So many things to come this week on Trap Talk Reptile Network. And enjoy the rest of your nights. First and foremost, Patreon members, I love you guys. Join the Patreon family. First link in the description below. Coolest reptile Patreon family in the world. Episode 481 in the books. Have a good night, and I'm out.